You're responsive when I text you.
Yeah.
You've been responsive on email, responsive on social. And I'm not saying people don't get busy and sometimes you have to push things off for a couple of days. I understand that. But I know that people that respond and get things done quickly, A, it makes you feel like you matter to them.
Right.
And B, I know that person's getting that thing off his desk.
Right.
If I send you a text, you don't have 47 texts left to send at the end of the night because you already hammered it.
Yeah.
Your phone's clear. So you've A, made me feel like I was important to you, and B, I know that your desk is probably a little bit more clear. Now, as things stack up, we can talk about scaling essentially and, what correspondence is more important or less important, sort of like the quadrants. But
people want to be heard,
that.
right? Jonathan, people want to be heard.
100%.
And if you don't prioritize at least, let's say, one business day or less responding to a client or a customer, you're just asking for the nuclear button to be pressed. And in today's market, no matter what you're doing, there's somebody else out there that will do what you're doing.
Yeah, so we used to have this saying. It was kind of a joke, but it's also, there is some truth to it. It's like, hey, look, you could burn a client's house down. If you call them beforehand and tell them, hey, I got some really bad news.
Right.
Your guys' house is on fire. You are literally probably going to save 50% of the pain and the anger that person would feel. Are they going to be pissed off? 100%. Are they probably going to leave you a bad review? 100%. All of that's probably going to happen. But if they just show up, Jason, and their house is burning down, what's the difference in the response of that?
Holy shit. Nobody told me, or I just found this out. It's the worst. And again, as a business owner, it's the reason why it's the number one core value, because it's the number one thing that we can teach to every one of our employees and we can give as an expectation to every one of our clients and customers. Commitment to communication. We guarantee we will respond within one business day. And look, I tell people, if you don't have the answer, just say, look, I'm working on it. I will get back to you by this time, one way or the other. And that, it just helps people step down the ladder.
Property Management 101, guys, coming from a master of his craft, Jason Yoss. Understanding what is one thing that you wish you had understood earlier in your career. You put down P&L. Tell me about that.
Oh my gosh. So absolutely, I did not go to business school whatsoever. I have a degree in psychology. I want to shout out to the University of Arizona. I went to the Marine Corps after that. So I color with crayons is basically what I'm getting at. And reading a balance sheet, reading a P&L, understanding true financials was not a strength. And my business suffered because of that in the beginning. Sure, I could sell, I could motivate, I could help build a team, but I didn't know, where money was going and why it was the way it was on the books until I really learned how to do that.
We really need to dive into that because I have a very, very similar story about my first business. We were murdering on the top line. Right. I was recruiting like a monster.
Right.
We were crushing it in sales. But then it's like all that's great. All that's fantastic. All that makes me feel like I'm doing something. But bro, my bottom line numbers were not where they need to be.
Right.
So understanding what a P&L was, how it worked, how it operated, where you can get better, where literally are you burning cash, right? What things do you need? What things were just for my ego? What things can I say no to, or should I be saying more yes to? All that stuff, and you gotta get in there and go.
Look, I don't want to drag it, but what you said, the last thing is like, what should I be saying no to? What am I doing with my ego? Like what? That is huge. And then the last point I want to add to that is you can't be afraid to look at it. You should be setting times where you're looking at certain metrics on that P&L on a regular basis. So you get away from I think it's good. I think it's roughly about, man, you got to know the numbers.
Love it. KPI is really important as well. Right.
Success.
To what do you attribute your success thus far, Jay?
It's all team. Like like I said, I color with crayons. It's the people that I've been able to surround myself with, that I've been lucky to have work with me at the companies or in the endeavors I'm doing. And then again, mentors, leaders, coaches. But that's what sets my output apart now from what it was, say, 5 or even 10 years ago, especially.
Question for you specifically. I know some military guys. Some of them are really, really responsive to leadership. Some of them get out and don't want anyone telling them what to do whatsoever. Sure. They go the other way. How did you kind of fall into that spectrum, Jay? And then At what point did you turn the corner and say, hey, look, I have all these doors. I'm working 80 hours a week, but at the end of the day, I'm spinning my wheels here. I need to do something about that. What was your process, and kind of how that all aligned for you?
Well, first and foremost, when I was in the Marine Corps, I was in the infantry. I did tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. I was pretty wired up when I got out. So I needed some time to decompress first and foremost. And then looking around the landscape, I noticed that I was, like you said, I was working so hard, but the bottom line wasn't increasing. So I had to find a better way and a better approach. So again, mentorship, reading a little bit, just getting outside of my comfort zone allowed me to go like, look, check your ego. You're not the smartest man on the planet. Newsflash, right? And it allowed me to start dabbling in things that, like I said, like a coach, like a mentor, like trying different avenues. And then when success started coming, I leaned into those things that were working. And everybody has a boss, man.
100%. When you sort of turn the corner on that, looking back, do you wish now that you would have got a coach earlier on? Because you had built something that was valuable. You did put a lot of effort, energy to build a brand, to go out there and get all those clients, to build the systems that you had. You had too much, your cogs were too high or whatever, however you were not essentially being profitable. But looking back, do you think the coach came in at the right time, the mentorship came in at the right time, or would you have started earlier and maybe built from the ground up differently?
That's a great question. And look, for the fact that we can't go back in time, so I'm happy that he came in when he did. Sure, would have been good like a year or two earlier, probably would have been better. But the truth of the matter is, would I have been ready at that time? I'm sure that if I really look back, somebody had probably said to me like, hey, like you might want to think about raising your prices, or this isn't sustainable. I had an accountant. I met with the CPA quarterly. They saw the numbers. I was just convinced that if I got more volume, it would do better. So sometimes timing is everything. And the timing when all that started to change, it was the right time for me. I will tell you this. We're always getting better. So I'm still doing it every day.
100%.
Every day, trying to get better, trying to, take it to that next level.
Yep, I love it. You can always, always, always get closer to perfection. Very hard to attain, but you can become an expert in something, right? You can become really, really, really good at something.
And you know how it is. You're working on your craft all the time. And this being not your first business as well, for what you do with ADU Pals, you understand like, hey, what I know now would it have translated back in my first business?
Yep. It's mastery, right? Is what we're looking for.
Right.
Mastery. Like I told you, I'm taking up bow hunting.
Yes, awesome.
So dude, like the best archers in the world, you drop that bow for 6 months, guess what?
Yeah.
Your shot's going to be off. Sure. About athletics, right? You talk about, people, riflemen, or people who shoot sniper rifles. You got to continually be working at your craft. Yeah. And there are variables, right? So how does the wind measure in certain locations? How is the dampness or the humidity in the air, right? So you can talk about all that stuff. We're constantly trying to get better. And I think that's where the humility comes into place, and why in the end, over time, you keep that attitude, Jason. You keep working super hard, the humility. I want to grow. I want to get better, and we can continue to get better. What happens is you probably end up getting better.
Right.
Love it, dude. All right. So tell me about a loss in your career. Could be personal, could be in your career, that you had to overcome. This is sort of like something, that you have to dig deep to find, because when you walk through things that are very challenging in life, it's embarrassing a lot of times. You feel like the world's caving in on you. Sometimes you can lose friends, etc. And that's your whole thing. And then looking back as time goes on, you realize you survive. What did I take from this on the positive side? What can I utilize, in my life, in my business now, so that doesn't happen again? And it becomes something that you can essentially build off of. So tell me about a time that you had to overcome a challenge.
Look, I'll stay in the same vein, getting a coach, taking those actions. Well, I decided at that time we were going to change our fee structure, raise our prices, and get us on a path to, being more in line with the industry standard profit for our kind of company. Well, I lost a huge amount of clients.
Yep.
And just clients that said, hey, I appreciate it, Jason, love you guys, but I like the price I was paying before I'm out. And within about a year, I think we lost 30% of our clients.
I think I had estimated in my head, maybe we talked about this 50%. Yeah. Like that's a risk.
And it was like I have an office, one in San Diego here, one in Vegas, one in Phoenix. It was the numbers were a little different depending on what office you were in. But at the end of the day, we lost about 30% of our clients. However, after we grinded through, after we were able to put more dollars now into our company from revenue we were producing, we were able to provide better value services for our clients.
100%. And that's a topic that we need to touch on.
It just...
When you don't have... When you're not making money...
Oh, yeah.
Your tires aren't being changed. Like, that was part of the problems that we had. Some of our trucks would break down, dude.
Yeah.
Then if we had service issues, a customer had a problem, a client had a problem with their install or whatever,
right.
It was tough for us to roll trucks back, right? They had a warranty issue. So, it was hard for us to essentially handle that because you're always sort of robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Always.
You're always just grinding to make it. It's around the corner. It's around the corner. It's around the corner. Well, there needs to be a proper strategy and business plan to where that corner is, how we're going to reach that corner, right. And what that corner actually looks like.
You couldn't be more correct. And I will let me focus it on property management for a second. I will tell anybody out there shopping for a property manager, look, if you're not paying a lot of money, that most likely means that the property manager is not providing the services that you most likely want. Do you know why their inspections aren't being done? Because they can't afford to send somebody to go do inspections. Do you want to know why those calls aren't being answered? Because they can't afford to have a robust staff or system to be able to go through your calls and get them answered in a timely manner. It's all dollars and cents. And what we learned is that, okay, we're going to be charging more, but now we're committed to providing the value to earn those dollars. Because it wasn't like we started out. We had to re-earn all our clients' business by saying, thanks for being with us. But now we're going to be more expensive, and here's the why. And then we actually had to provide that why. And so...
You had to perform on what you essentially were able to explain to your clients, hey, this is why we're doing it.
Right.
This is the value that we're going to be able to provide. But then you had to actually go do the thing.
You get what you pay for. You get what you pay for. And yes, we had to back it up.
How long ago was this, Jay?
2019.
Is when you turn the corner.
2019. February 2019, we called it the Rip the Band-Aid Off strategy. We just sent a letter to everybody at the end of the year. Starting February of 2019, we just started saying like, okay, here's your new pricing strategy. And, we got a lot of, here's my 30-day notice, I'm leaving. I was like, okay, understand.
30% isn't bad though, man, especially for the amount of units you had.
But let's put it in perspective. Is my first time, again, a lot of you owning businesses, especially your first one, it's your baby. You don't know what you don't know. There was a lot of anxiety. I could barely sleep.
Raising prices is terrifying.
Terrifying.
The first time
I was terrified.
But the more you read, the more you get into it. Hey, dude, it's actually really good for you, and you get sometimes better clients.
Yeah.
Because they get that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's move into the meat of this thing, brother. We are making really good time. You got my kind of energy, man.